Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David. This episode is for UFC Fight Night, Covington versus Buckley. If I don't sound super enthusiastic, it's because I'm trying to stay quiet so I don't wake up the neighbors. Also, if I don't sound super enthusiastic about certain fights, it's because I was already screaming and complaining about them while I was watching it. This is the last fight of the year, so we'll just break down the important moments. Let's start off with the first honorable mention. There are no robberies. I know the show is basically built off of me whining about robberies, but no one got robbed. There were some close calls, but we'll discuss those later on. We go to the first honorable mention. That's Grant versus Tavares. Grant, who was robbed by Marcos on this fight, who was robbed by Marcos on a different fight card, finally gets a decision here. 30-27 on my scorecards for Grant. In the first round, Grant was outstriking Tavares by about 24 plus strikes. Tavares was basically, he basically acted like Petrino in his fight, but he just was going forward and was not attacking at all. That's where you get the 24 strikes by Grant that he was outstruck by. You go to the second round, where Grant outstruck Tavares, this time by 34 strikes. There was a situation where Tavares kind of dropped Grant. He didn't really drop him, but the commentary made it seem as though he dropped him. I can't blame the commentary on this one. There's plenty more blame from the commentary later on, but he didn't drop him. He kind of just grabbed his foot and hit him, so it's not really a traditional drop. But even after the drop, before and after the drop, Grant was outstriking Tavares pretty well. The round went to him anyways. And then you go to the third round. Grant just continued to outstrike Tavares, this time by 40 plus strikes. He was outstriking him well. And my complaint throughout a lot of these fight cards is that because, and I need to be a little more nicer when I comment about commentary, but because they're watching the fight in a different way than maybe I'm watching the fight. They're watching it from they're watching the individual actions instead of scoring it the way I am. And the problem with that is they sometimes are watching Grant, who is outstriking Tavares by 40 plus strikes. They're not talking about how he's winning the fight and what he's doing well. Instead, it's, Tavares landed something really big, and so they'll spend 40,000 hours talking about Tavares, when that shouldn't be the case. It should be talking about how Davey Grant is really doing well in terms of the striking. But they don't do that, and that's what pisses me off. So I have a 30-27. You go to the judges' scorecards, and the reason why I brought them up is because Derek Cleary has his 29-28. That's just nonsense. He gives the second round to Tavares. He just gives it because he dropped him but didn't really drop him. He gives him the round. Honorable mention, that should be a 30-27. Eric Colon and Christopher Edgehill understand the assignment, which is they gave all three rounds to Davey Grant, and those two are the correct scorecards. You go to the next honorable mention, and that's Johnson versus Azaitar. The first round, I gave a 10-9 to Johnson. The second round ends in a KO win for Johnson, obviously. And then you go to the descriptions here. Johnson was outstriking Azaitar by about 4 strikes. He got a little close towards the end, right? Azaitar landed some stuff that could maybe, I don't want to say, not could maybe sway some judges, but Johnson was steadily outstriking Azaitar this entire round. It should have gone to Azaitar. We go to the judges' scorecards, and a judge fumbled, okay? A judge definitely fumbled. You go to the Eric Colon. He gave the first round 10-9 for Johnson. Same did Saul D'Amato, but then Christopher Edgehill, he fumbled this one. He gave the first round to Azaitar. Honorable mention to Edgehill. You go to the next honorable mention, and this one almost caught me. I love Adrian Yanez, but he lost this fight. I was very surprised at the judges' scorecards at this 30-27 for Marcos. This is a simple 30-27. There are moments in each round for Yanez, but he just loses this based off of just him getting outstruck. Pretty simple here. You go to the first round. Marcos outstrikes Yanez by about 6 strikes. Yanez is leading on strikes for a little bit, and then Marcos just catches him. He catches him and slowly starts to build up on strikes in that first round. In the second round, the same thing. It's kind of back and forth, really. But Marcos is outstriking him. This time he outstrikes him by 2 strikes. It's very close on strikes in the second one. The strike numbers were just off, by the way. The strike numbers for the first round depicted that Yanez was up. That's untrue. In the second round, it depicted that Yanez was up big. That's also untrue. And then in the third round, just like the second round, Marcos barely outstrikes Yanez. But the difference here is that he had 2 takedowns, and that definitely secured that. I don't know where you find 2 rounds for Yanez. You can maybe argue the second if you want to be cute about it, but you can't find 2 rounds. And if you find the second round, you should be fired. So you go to the scorecards here, and Derek Cleary, he is the only one who has the correct scorecard. It's 30-27 for Yanez. Jesus Christ, 30-27 for Marcos. You then have Eric Colon. I won't say an honorable mention here. The strikes are really close in that second round, so for him to give the second round to Yanez, I'm not going to be mad at. But he gives the first round to Marcos, the third round to Marcos. His scorecard's fine, 29-28 to Marcos. And then you have Chris Lee, an honorable mention. It's a very shit scorecard. He gives the first round to Marcos. He gives the second round to Yanez. Gives the third round to Yanez. I don't know what you were thinking. I'm assuming he's going off of what the last few seconds where Marcos is tired. That shouldn't even fucking matter. Not only did he still outstrike Yanez, even him going backwards and playing possum. I know the commentary made it seem as though he was tired or he got hit with something. He was playing possum pretty well. He's done this. I believe I've seen him do this twice now at this point. Marcos is going backwards and he's still outstriking Yanez. He's still catching Yanez while going backwards. He also had 2 takedowns. I don't know how you scored this for Yanez. Why do I keep saying Yanez? For Yanez. I've heard Yanez or Yanez, whatever. So there you have it on that. Honorable mention of Chris Lee. That's a disgusting scorecard. You go to the next honorable mention, and this one had me this one had me pissed off. Not because of the metrics of the fight, but just the way the commentary was talking about it. And finally, while I was arguing with myself, Bisping finally catches himself. And I don't blame Bisping. I blame everyone. But let's go through the whole thing. I'm talking about Petrino versus Jacoby. Okay? I feel bad for Jacoby because he got robbed against Roundtree. But let's forget about that for a second. Petrino is one of the worst fighters ever. If you've listened to this channel before, you know my hatred for Petrino, my sports hatred for Petrino, for Almeida, and for certain individuals who have this style of nothing. Their style is basically nothing. And when the fight started, the first round was a dud, and the commentary made you know it was a dud. But the big thing I caught on was how critical they were of Jacoby's fight style. Not only did Jacoby tell them what the fuck his fight style was for this match, the commentary seems to just ignore that Petrino not only was not throwing, but wasn't landing a lot either. And so the funny thing about this fight, this round, was eventually Brendan Fitzgerald catches on in the second round where he notifies us finally that Petrino's landing at like a very low clip. And in the first round, in the second round, the commentary was just talking about, man, what Jacoby needs to do, how he needs to move, and this and that. And finally, Bisping, who's just waffling on, catches himself and finally goes, you know what? I should shut up because Jacoby's actually doing the thing. He's outstriking him. And just the way, and you can get a sense of the way the commentary is talking is how the judges are going to score. Now, I'm not saying they work in tandem. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that mindset of how they're speaking about the fight can permeate with the judges. And what I mean is they were really emphasizing the heavy strikes from Petrino. And Petrino would land a heavy strike once around, but was getting outstruck pretty much. Granted, the strikes are low, but was getting outstruck well enough to where this wasn't an argument of heavy strikes versus cumulative strikes. This was an argument of Petrino isn't throwing, nor is he landing. He should lose this fucking fight. So let's start off with the first one. First 2 rounds, I gave a 10-9 to Jacoby. Okay, you go to the first round where Jacoby outstrikes Petrino by about 5 strikes. Jacoby doesn't get dropped. He gets hit with maybe a big strike, but he doesn't get dropped. Jacoby outstrikes Petrino by 5 strikes. You go to the second round where he barely outstrikes Petrino, okay, by about 2 strikes. But regardless, he's outstriking Petrino in this round, okay? And then you go to the third round where I literally get up from my seat, and I'm thankful. This is going to come off wrong, but I'm talking to myself going, Jacoby's winning this fight, and if he gets hit with some bullshit decision loss, I'm going to be really pissed. And then just as I say that, he knocks out Petrino, and the MMA gods rejoice, because we can't keep sitting through these do-nothing Brazilian fighters, and I say that with really only 2 fighters, which is Petrino and Jailton Almeida. These weird fighters that have this style of, like, I'm not going to do anything. Jailton Almeida can't strike, nor can he deliver ground and pound. Petrino will walk you down, smile, and make an inaudible noise, and then hit you one time and retreat. There were many moments in this fight that just made me mad that the commentary just didn't pick up on. The fact that Petrino his aimbot is on 0. What he's aiming at makes no sense. He will land a strike, and then everything else is just off key. That's 1. 2, he can't grapple. He just can't grapple. 3, when he gets hit, he has the biggest tell in the world. That you watch enough Petrino, you know that he's a pretty happy guy. He smiles a lot. He's very joyful. And then he does this, like, when he's fighting, he does like a stern face. And that's fine. Every fighter does that. But you can catch his tail pretty quickly. There's many leg kicks that Jacoby landed in this fight. And when I say many, I mean, I say that with an asterisk. But there were many leg kicks that when he landed, there were a few leg kicks that when he landed on Petrino would stop. He wouldn't lift his leg up. I mean, yes, he lifted his leg up, but it wasn't like he got hit, lifted his leg up, and then planted it down and kept going forward. He got hit with the leg kick and stopped. He just stopped. And I thought to myself, that's a tell. And the commentary not once did they go. They just kept waffling on about how Jacoby wasn't doing this, and let's bring in Dean Thomas to just say something stupid. Like that was pretty much the gist. It wasn't, hey, Petrino just got hit with that leg kick and he's hurt. Like, that hurt him. Nope. It was, oh my God, Jacoby needs to go forward. Jacoby really needs to put something on this fella. As though the onus should have been on him. The onus should have been on Petrino. Yet, when we go to the judges' scorecards, it doesn't fucking reflect that because the judges, right? You go to the first round, and I can't honorable mention this, but it does show that there was a possibility that Petrino could have eked this out, sadly, right? All 3 judges scored it the same way. They gave the first round to Jacoby, which I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that they were saying what I was saying. But they all 3 of them gave the second round to Petrino. So they gave a 10-9 to Jacoby in the first and a 10-9 to Petrino in the second. That was Jason Greener, Saul D'Amato, and Derek Cleary. So there you have it on that. You go to the next honorable mention, and it's Kape versus Silva. Kape wins this by TKO in the third round. I know it's Manel Kape, but fuck it, I'll say Manel Kape. Manel Kape wins this by TKO in the third round. Manel Kape was begging for a title shot. I mean, I had to press the backspace button on ESPN Plus probably 20 times before they lifted his hand up, because he was too busy telling Dana, I've never asked for anything in my life. Just give me a title. Bro, shut the fuck. Let me look at these rankings really quick, because in my head I'm thinking to myself, who would be above him for a title shot? Actually, I'm not going to look at the rankings, because he just beat Bruno Silva, and there's no way on the planet we just give him he's at number 9. Do we just give it? He's at number 9, and he lost to Makayev. That was right. That was his last fight before this one. He lost to Muhammad Makayev, who's no longer in the UFC. So we're sitting at a place where we don't know who the next contender is for the title. And you can make an excuse to go, we don't have anyone right now, so we can give Manel Kape a championship opportunity. We can. Right, he fought Asakura. I believe he beat Asakura. I don't have the thing in front of me, but sure. He had a title in the former promotion. I mean, Manel Kape coming to the UFC was set up for him to eventually fight for the title. We could see that a mile away. But at this point now, the question is, do we give him a title shot straight up, or does he have to fight Royval, Car France, who's the other guy? Royval, Car France, Brandon Moreno. Does he have to fight one of those three to get a title shot, or will they just give him a title shot? Who knows? But he wins by TKO in the third round. You go to the first round. Where he outstrikes Silva by about 9 strikes. He's getting touched up a little bit, but he was looking too good. He outstrikes him by 9 strikes in the first round. Excuse me. In the second round, he outstrikes Silva by about 16 strikes, but he gets hit with way too many groin strikes, and then boom, they pointed Silva. So that becomes a 10-8 round really for Manel Kape. And then in the third round, it's a barrage of punches that leads to the TKO. You go to the judges' scorecards, and all their scorecards reflect mine as well. 10-9 in the first and a 10-8 in the second for Manel Kape. You go to the second, the next honorable mention, and that's Swanson versus Quarantillo. Quarantillo wins by KO. Wins by KO in the third round. The first round I gave to Swanson. The second round I gave to Quarantillo. In that very first round, by the way, Quarantillo got a takedown. He got it towards the end. This one's kind of weird. He got it towards the end, lands few punches, but he's getting outstruck well before this instant. He gets outstruck by Swanson by about 4+ strikes. You go to the second round, it's close on strikes, pretty even on strikes, but Quarantillo has 2 takedowns. That round belongs to him. You go to the judges' scorecards, and 2 of them really get it right. Eric Colon and Chris Lee, their scorecards reflect mine. And then Troy Winkapa, he gets it wrong. He gives the first round to Swanson. He gives the second round to Swanson. That's fucking atrocious. That one's pretty bad. Second round to Swanson. They're pretty even on strikes, and he gets taken down twice. Come on. You give the round to Quarantillo. But he gets knocked out. It is what it is. It's sad. Last honorable mention. This one really isn't an honorable mention. It's kind of me just relaying what happened. Covington versus Buckley. Before this fight even got started, Covington looked, I don't want to say bad, but he didn't look like himself in the fight against Edwards. And Buckley's just 2-4. Excuse me. Buckley's just 2-4. And I could just feel that he was going to lose this fight. Also, he switched the song. He switched to I'm a Real American instead of fucking the Kurt Angle You Suck. But that's beyond the point. Covington didn't look bad in this fight. How do I put this? He didn't look good in this fight. And that's even more capped off by the behind the scenes video of Chael Sonnen basically doing his whole shtick with Colby, but Colby looked dejected and sad. He just looked like, man, this is really close to the end for me, and it kind of is. It's close to the end for Colby. We might have maybe a few more Colby fights, and this will be the end for Colby Covington, sadly enough. But back to the fight. First 2 rounds to Buckley. Round 3 ends in pretty much a doctor stoppage. A doctor stoppage TKO. In the first round, Buckley was outstriking Colby by about 10 plus strikes. He doesn't drop Colby. He kind of trips Colby and punches him at the same time. So that leads to Colby falling down and Buckley landing a couple strikes down there. But it's not a drop. Even in the moment, I knew it wasn't a drop. I was like, he didn't land that clean enough. The crowd just kind of went, oh. As soon as Colby fell, they just fucking screamed. It's like, damn, okay, whatever. Second round, Colby had a takedown, but got outstruck by Buckley. Got outstruck by about 16 strikes in the second round. And then before the doctor stoppage, Colby had a takedown with a little bit of ground and pound. But Buckley was outstriking Colby on the feet by about 20 plus strikes. He was outstriking him well before he got taken down, and when he got back up, he was outstriking him there as well. The doctor stoppage happens, and I haven't seen the video, but I saw like a silhouette, like a headline of "This fight doesn't get stopped. It's if it's in Vegas." I don't know. I don't even know if that's accurate. The way the lady was explaining the cut, I mean, she was probably right. It was above. This wasn't an eyebrow cut, which I feel like that gets stopped a lot. This was an eyelid cut, which doesn't sound good. I personally, if I have an eyelid cut, bitch, you better fucking stop the fight. I don't want to lose my eyelid. I don't want to lose my eyelid. That's the last thing I want to lose. I can lose my eyebrow. I can have a giant cut above my forehead or on my forehead, but losing my eyebrow. Losing my eyelid, is something I definitely don't want to do. But that's the last fight of the year, and we'll be back. What is it? What was it? January 11th? We'll be back somewhere around that time. It's been a good year. I've scored every single UFC fight for this year, and I think last year. I'm not even sure. I don't even know if that might be true. Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're just going on and on and on. But thank you for everyone who's listened, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hoping for a much better year. Thank you all for listening, and God bless.